This segment of the news is brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. Police here in the capital also investigating a police-involved shooting that occurred last night, leaving a man dead. Shortly after 5 p.m., police received reports of a disturbance at the Bahamas Hot Rod Association along Corridor 7 between Bethel Avenue and Yellow Elder Way. Police Press Liaison Officer ASP Peters was on scene to give details.
Units were dispatched, and on their arrival, they met a gathering. As a result of this gathering, the officers established a checkpoint at the entrance of the venue. And as vehicles were leaving the entrance of the venue itself, officers made checks of those vehicles along with the persons. One such vehicle, in an attempt to evade the officers at the checkpoint, accelerated his vehicle towards the officers. And as the officers beckoned him to stop, he failed to do so. So the officers pulled their service weapons and discharged it at the occupant of the vehicle.
ASP Peters says the vehicle was then driven some 300 yards further west along Corridor 7 and later crashed into a northern wall.
EMS was summoned. That person was taken to the hospital, where we later learned that he succumbed to his injuries. Investigations into this matter continues. As the investigators made check of the vehicle itself, a weapon was found within the vehicle.
According to ASP Peters, only the driver of the vehicle, who was in his mid-20s, was harmed during this ordeal. He added that at this time, they do not know if the officers were wearing body cams. A 25-year-old of Garden Hills was arraigned today in the magistrate's court on murder charges. The incident relating to the January 26 shooting on Mall Drive off Soldier Road. Our Laurencia Smith was at court today and files this report.
Hands and feet shackled, 25-year-old Shaquem Monroe of Garden Hills No. 1 was escorted into court No. 5 today by officers of the Royal Bahamas Police Force to stand before Magistrate Darren Roll Davis on one count of murder. Monroe is accused of the shooting death of Lamar Moss. According to police reports, on the same day in question, shortly before 7 p.m., officers received reports of a shooting on Mall Drive off of Soldier Road. On the arrival, first responding officers through their inquiries revealed that two males were sitting in a vehicle in front of a residence when an occupant of a small car approached them and discharged a firearm in their direction, injuring one. The victim was transported to hospital via private vehicle, where he later succumbed to his injuries. Monroe was not allowed to enter a plea, and Magistrate Roll Davis remanded him to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until April 8, 2021. He returns to court on that day for a service of a voluntary bill of indictment, which will fast-track his case to the Supreme Court. For Jcn News, I'm Laurencia Smith.
Opposition leader Philip Davis says the country is a sinking ship under this minister-led administration, adding that Attorney General Carl Bethel didn't do due diligence regarding the emergency powers orders. He made these claims yesterday during a press conference at the Progressive Liberal Party's headquarters.
Yes, the same Attorney General who allowed the emergency orders to lapse by mistake during a pandemic. Their argument, which they accompanied with ridiculous legal threats, amounts to this: the Prime Minister didn't issue an order to waive the procurement rules. He just ignored them without issuing the order. And therefore, he wasn't obligated to report to Parliament how he spent the people's money. Yes, I'm serious. That's their argument.
On January 28th, Mr. Davis issued a statement accusing Dr. Minnis of breaching the law under the emergency regulations. He said that the emergency proclamation has expired twice, once at the end of June last year and again this past November. He added that at neither time did the Prime Minister comply with the requirement. Former Deputy House Speaker Dion Smith also issued a statement accusing the Prime Minister and former Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest of breaching Section 11, Subsection 2 of the Emergency Powers Regulations, saying that both should be charged and tried for the same. He also called for their resignations. Attorney General Carl Bethel fired back, saying that the opinion and the conclusions drawn and serious allegations of criminality made by Mr. Smith and the leader of the opposition are based upon a false premise. The AG adds that they both are wrong in law and on the facts, and those false allegations expose both Mr. Smith and Mr. Davis to possible liability in civil law for libel and possibility to criminal prosecution, where a complaint of criminal libel to be laid by the Prime Minister against the said persons. Well, in response, Mr. Davis further stated that the government is not living up to their manifesto of transparency and accountability.
Time and again, the Prime Minister has extended the state of emergency in this country. That means since last March, Hubert Minnis has had the power to reward favored F&M insiders with contracts without being transparent or accountable, and without having to defend the decisions to the public. You can see why, then, he's so eager to continue operating without parliamentary oversight. But the emergency orders also require him to lay a report before Parliament detailing his expenditures within 6 weeks of the expiration of a proclamation of emergency. He has not done this.
Mr. Davis says that the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance himself is in breach of regulations by not producing a report of his spending. In our national COVID-19 news, health officials confirmed 49 cases of the virus over the weekend, 9 cases on Friday, 24 on Saturday, and 16 on Sunday. 28 of the confirmed cases were reported on New Providence, 10 on Grand Bahama, 6 on Abaco, 4 on Andros, and 1 on Eleuthera. These cases bring the national total to 8,223. Now, health officials on Saturday announced that as of January 30th, it will include, when necessary, confirmed cases that are imported as a result of travel. Since January 1st, there have been 16 COVID-19 confirmed cases on New Providence and 1 on Exuma with a history of travel within 14 days. On January 30th, there were 5 newly confirmed cases on New Providence with a history of travel, also within 14 days. For Sunday, January 31st, there were 3 newly confirmed cases, 1 on New Providence and 2 on Andros with a history of travel. Active cases in the country now at 1,210. Of that number, 13 cases are hospitalized, all considered moderately ill. There were no recoveries on Sunday. That category remains at 6,784. More than 60,000 tests have been completed to date, and the death toll remains at 176. Stay with us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.